Shalom to everyone. This week we are going to start with a series on the book of Judges, Sefer Shoftim. So we've done a study on the book of Yeshua, Joshua, and the book of Joshua ends with a conquest and a covenant commitment. Here in Sefer Shoftim, it begins really with a settlement, the compromise, and the spiritual drift of a nation. So the book of Judges is not really just about a people that suddenly become evil, but it is really about good beginnings slowly collapsing through compromise. So in chapter 21, verse 25, we have the phrase, those days, in those days there was no king in Israel, and everyone did as they really thought was well in their eyes or good in their eyes. So this phrase really will frame everything we study in Shoftim. And it's really not just a historical statement, but it is a theological diagnosis. The issue here in the book of Judges is not simply leadership absence, but it's really about a moral authority absence. So the book repeatedly returns to this phrase because it really explains why Israel behaved the way that it does. So Shoftim is really best understood in stages, not as isolated stories of heroes, but it is really each part that builds on the previous one. So in this teaching, in this part one, we will start with an overview, and then in the following parts, we will move to the roots of failure, and then look at the judges themselves, and finally the devastating consequences of this nation and of this spiritual drift of a nation. So the structure helps us to see that Israel's collapse is progressive and not just a sudden one. So what is really the bigger picture within the book of Judges, the book of Sefer Shoftim? It's really about Judges. It's about Shoftim that tells what life looked like in Israel after Yehoshua, after Joshua, and before the monarchy, before the establishment of kingship. So it's really about a time with land but no centralized leadership. So we can see it's not a book that is really focused on the historical events. So it's not a historical book as much as it as a theological narrative. So the repeated stories are meant to show the reader what happens when Israel breaks covenant, fragments into tribes, and improvises a life basically on their own terms. So it's not written to celebrate heroes, but a life of a people living outside the covenant. So a simple way to really track the book is the repeating cycles that we are going to see within the book of Judges developing. So this repeated cycle shows that Israel keeps repeating the same mistakes, and even though God keeps responding faithfully. So this repetition is intentional in this book, and it is meant to teach the reader at that time, and even for us today, to teach us, and not to really be a book of entertainment about the heroes of the biblical times. So the key theme that we revert back to in the book of Judges about, in those days there was no king in Israel, everyone did what was right in their own eyes, chapter 21 verse 25. So this verse really becomes a theological summary of the entire book. So the bigger picture that we will find, it's not a book about heroic leaders, but it really exposes the failure of partial obedience of the people, the spiritual drift, and the need for really godly leadership under God's rule. So Judges is not about strong personalities. It is about a weak covenant commitment. So when there is no shared moral authority under God, then society really fragments. So why does the study of Shoftim, the study of this book of Judges, matters? It is to show how covenant neglect leads to moral, social, and spiritual collapse. And it really prepares the reader in the time of Samuel Kings, the Samuel and in the Kings, King Shaul and David, and the longing really for a righteous king. So the book really prepares the reader for the longing for really godly leadership, which we will see will begin in the book of Shemuel, in the book of Samuel. So when was Judges compiled? Who wrote it? And when was it really written? So there are basically two views today. The author in a Jewish tradition in the Talmud attributes then the book of Judges and Ruth to Samuel, that they are part of this process of putting together the book of Judges. So it spans approximately 300 years from the 13th century to the 10th century BCE. But we also find that there are modern scholars that say about the composition of the book of Judges that it's a framework that Judges shows clearly contains editorial shaping consistent with a really wider Deuteronomistic history, compiling the whole Torah and the idea of the Torah within the book. So within that model, major compilation and editing is often placed in the monarchy era, in the times where the king was already established, which is around about the times of the king to the 6th century BCE. There was proposals really for earlier editions as far as the 7th century BCE and even later revision stages. So this suggests that Judges was intentionally arranged in the way that we have it today to teach the readers, even later readers, how to really interpret the failure and the disaster of a nation outside covenant living. So in summary, the book probably contains a lot of ancient materials, some very old, perhaps even containing some oral traditions, but the version that we have today appears intentionally edited to convey a message to a later audience, which would be in that time the audience or a nation established under a king. So this indicates the compilation likely occurred after the establishment of a kingship, rather than during the actual events that is described in the book of Judges. But this recurring phrase, "in those days there was no king in Israel," suggests really a retrospective viewpoint from a time when kingship was a concurrent concern. So we can see this Deuteronomistic style framework aligns with an audience learning to interpret disaster, compromise, and covenant failure. Specifically a nation now that is basically under the leadership of a a human king, that it is basically, as the book of Shemuel will tell us, that God said to Samuel, it's not you who they are rejecting, but it is me as God, as their king. So the book of Judges really becomes this foundational teaching for an audience that will learn what happens to a people that is really in outside of a covenant living, that is living in compromise, that is slowly drifting spiritually. So to outline the book of Shoftim, I've got a visual slide here which breaks down the book into basically three stages or three major parts, which then is basically the conquest that continues from the book of Yeshua, and then really talking about the 13 Shoftim, the 13 judges, and then the disastrous incidents at the book of Judges. So the green part shows the compromise, the blue shows the declining leadership, and red will show the absolute collapse of a society with outside a covenant structure and compromised living inside the nation. So the structure itself really provides this message. The decline is gradual but inevitable when covenant faithfulness really erodes over time. So in chapters 1 and 2, where it really continues from the book of Joshua, Yeshua, these chapters really explain why everything that follows goes wrong. The land is technically possessed by the nation of Israel. The enemy is only partially defeated, and obedience is incomplete, is not full-heartedly. So Israel possesses the land, but does not fully obey the covenant terms and stipulation. So the enemy is really not removed or defeated totally, but it's rather tolerated. And then we see that this is not part of a military failure, but it is really about a covenantal compromise. So what is left is unresolved here becomes the source of every later problem that we are going to read as we continue studying the rest of the book, including the prophets. So we can see that some of these problems that is not dealt with here in this time frame will reappear in the future in the nation, and almost the same effect of a spiritual decline will inevitably be happening within the nation of Israel. So Judges it does not begin with really chaos. It does not begin with start with a nation that is in chaos, but it begins with an almost success. Almost obedience becomes the soil for future bondage. So Judges does not begin with this idea of rebellion, but it really begins with a people that is almost successful, and then partial obedience feels harmless, but it becomes the soil for the later actions and repercussions of their compromise. So chapter 2 really becomes this theological lens for reading the entire book. So here Israel didn't lose the land, they lost their resolve. So Israel was given the land by God and remained in it, but they stopped actively living out the covenant that really secured this land for it. So they did not suffer immediate expulsion, but they really suffered a spiritual erosion, a spiritual decline. So in chapters then 3 to 16, which will be most of the second part of, or the second sessions are discussing the Judges, this will be really the heart of the book of Judges. And this outline captures the real key idea. As much as deliverers increase, the faithfulness of their people declines. So the big structural insight that we will see in this part is that the judges are not really arranged randomly as we would have thought, but they move from a spiritual, stable, morally compromised, and then a chaotic leadership, ending then with the life or the story of Samson, of Shimshon. So as the book progresses, leadership deteriorates. Deliverers increase in number, but faithfulness declines. So this shows that leadership reflects the spiritual state then of the nation. So the judges then are not intentionally arranged, and it's not randomly arranged, but it's intentionally arranged in this way to show that it reflects, the leadership reflects then the spiritual compromise of the people of Israel, the nation of Israel. So in the second part, we have got basically three stages, if we can call it this way, which is the early judges. And we'll find this in chapters 3 to 5, that the characteristics of these early judges was that they had a clear divine calling. There was a decisive external enemy against the nation of Israel. And then there was a period of an absolute national deliverance from this external enemies, and then this scene of a God-centered victory. So the central idea in the early judges will be that judges still operate in a mode, a Joshua Caleb worldview, the same that we would see the 2 spies versus the 10 spies. These are the early judges that operate really in faith. Their faith precedes their action. So the key point in the early judges, or the study of the early judges, will be, at first, the problem is outside of Israel. It's facing external enemies. And we will see as we continue then with the second part, or the second stage of the judges, which we call, say, the middle judges, we see this key shift in leadership that becomes really conflicted. Faith is mixed with fear. And then here we start facing a pagan thinking that seeps into a national worship. So the important contrast that we're going to see in the middle judges is that Gideon, called by God, then ends up creating an idol. Avimelech, which is basically the son of Gideon, as a king really without a calling, and then continues into violence. And Yiftach, the victory and the tragic vow of the story of Jephthah, of Yiftach. So the key idea with the middle judges then is that deliverance no longer heals the nation. As much as God provides then the deliverance, it doesn't seem to heal the nation. Leaders reflect then Israel's confusion, Israel's spiritual state, as we might say, their spiritual decline. And then the enemy really moves from outside of Israel into the inside of Israel, almost the people becoming their own worst enemy. So the leadership really becomes conflicted and compromised. Gideon begins well but ends in idolatry. Abimelech seeks kingship without really God. Jephthah, tragic vow, shows spiritual confusion. And then the enemy moves from outside of Israel into basically inside of Israel, being their own worst enemy. So, and then the third part of the second part, which is the final judge, is the story of Samson, of Shimshon. So here we see Shimshon is basically the climax of a nation in ultimate decline. So why does this story of Samson, of Shimshon, really matter? Because we'll see here, as much as it's Shimshon is called from birth, he's empowered by the Spirit, and he's personally driven against an enemy rather than driven to deliver a nation from an enemy. And he fights enemies, but he does not fight the idea of idolatry. So the key idea, or the key picture that we're going to find in the story of Shimshon, is the strength that a leadership without discipline is really a destructive. Shimshon delivers Israel really accidentally. The story is not about Israel's deliverance, but it's about fighting against the enemy, and subsequently he delivers the whole nation of Israel then from a nation. And Israel never cries out during the story, as in the previous story where there was hardships and then they cried out to God and God delivered. So we will see some of these things then in the story, or the final part of the final judge. So God still works, but the people no longer change. The nation of Israel no longer changed. So Shimshon really represents the climax of decline. He's empowered by God, but driven by desire. And Israel never cries out during this story. So deliverance happens accidentally for the nation of Israel and not intentionally. And we find that God still works, but the people no longer is morally changed. And then finally, we are going to then, in the continuing teachings, we are going to look at then the two disastrous incidents within the nation of Israel. So these chapters are really not chronological, but they are theological structured. They show what Israel becomes when covenant completely collapses. So worship is corrupted, morality disintegrates, and unity is completely destroyed. So this is really a life without moral authority under God. This is going to be then the final part of the outline of Shoftim. So in summary, in this part one that we have done, it's all about, in those days there was no king in Israel, and everybody did what was good in their own sight. So what we have seen is that Shoftim is a theological narrative. It's not a historical fictional book. Israel lives in the land, but without covenant resolve. Deliverers arise, yet the nation does not change. Leadership declines as spiritual faithfulness then erodes. So just as Judges, what we have seen is not a book about great heroes. It is a mirror held up to a nation that knows God but no longer obeys him fully. So Israel is not driven out of the land. Instead, we find that compromise then settles into stages. So the core lesson here is that partial obedience leads to repeated rescue. Repeated rescue leads then to a moral drift. And when the moral drift then absolutely leads to a societal collapse. So the book keeps repeating the same cycle, not because God is uncreative or the writer is uncreative, but because the people never deal with the root issue. So deliverance without transformation only delays the ultimate collapse. So the key insight in this part one is that the judges are not the solution, but they actually start exposing the spiritual problem. God remains faithful in delivering the nation, but somehow the people really stop responding. So the judges are not meant to impress us, they are meant to disturb us. As Israel declines spiritually, so does the quality of its leadership. God still intervenes, but a partnership really we find here is gone or collapsing. So looking at part two, we have to look at the roots of failure, which we are going to find in chapters 1 and 2. So, and we have to really ask ourselves, if this were the book of Shoftim ends, the real question becomes, where did the collapse begin? Where did it go wrong from the beginning? So this is the study in part 2. So to answer that, we must go back to then chapters 1 and 2. Because long before Israel fell apart, it had already compromised the covenant. So the one sentence that we can describe it in a very strong manner is that Shoftim does not begin with rebellion. It begins with an almost obedience. So in then part 2, we are going to then look at specifically at chapters 1 and 2, the roots of the failure, and then use this as a basis to see why the book of Judges then are outlined, and the actions reflect the state of the nations. The actions of the judges of the Shoftim then reflects the spiritual state of the nation. And with this, I want to wish each one of you Shavua Tov, and may he who makes peace in his heights, may he make peace upon us and upon all Israel, and we say Amen.